You know, every single second, there's this hidden war being fought on our digital networks. It's a battlefield where just one tiny mistake, one little vulnerability in the infrastructure can give an attacker the keys to the kingdom, access to thousands of devices. So today, we're going to pull back that curtain and look at these invisible threats and the really powerful tools we use to fight back.
Seriously, think about that for a second. You send an email, you shoot off a message, you log into your bank account. You just trust that your conversation is private, right? A direct line from you to them. But what if it isn't? What if someone could secretly wedge themselves right into the middle of that conversation, reading every word and maybe even changing it?
Let's make this feel a bit more real with a super low-tech example. Picture a student, we'll call her Angie, who's not doing so hot in math. Her teacher sends a letter home with the bad news. But Angie, she gets to the mailbox first. She snags the letter, reads it, and then forges a reply saying her parents are totally fine with her grades. Then she writes a completely fake letter saying she's a math genius and hands that one to her parents. So now the teacher is confused, her parents are clueless, and Angie, she successfully intercepted and totally altered the entire conversation. What Angie just did with the mailbox, well, in the digital world, that's exactly what we call a man-in-the-middle attack. An attacker puts themselves smack in the middle of your connection. They could just be listening in quietly, or they could be actively changing the information going back and forth. You think you're talking directly to your bank's website, but you're actually talking through the attacker.
So that brings us right to our first section, the invisible intruder. Let's dive a little deeper into these stealthy attacks. All right, next up, attacks on digital trust. This is where we see how attackers mess with the fundamental systems that make the internet even work.
Okay, so first we've got to talk about DNS. You can think of the domain name system as the internet's giant address book. Every single time you type a website like google.com into your browser, DNS is the thing that looks it up and finds the real address, the IP address, which is just a string of numbers that computers actually understand. It's a system built completely on trust. And that's where DNS poisoning comes in. This is when an attacker manages to corrupt that address book. They sneak a fake IP address into the system's memory. So when you type in your bank's website, the corrupted address book doesn't send you to your bank. It sends you to a perfect replica that the attacker built. You log in, they steal your password, and you never even knew you went to the wrong address. Now, things can get even more personal on your local network, like the Wi-Fi at your office or a coffee shop. This is called ARP poisoning. In this attack, a bad guy on the network basically tricks every other device into thinking their computer is the gateway to the internet. It's like they're shouting, "Hey everyone, all your internet traffic needs to come through me from now on." And because they've successfully impersonated that gateway, every single piece of data from every device on that network, we're talking every email, every password, every single search, flows directly through their machine first. They become the ultimate man in the middle for that whole network. Okay, so that's pretty scary, right? Which leads us right into section 3, the Network Watchtower. How on earth do we fight back against these invisible threats? Well, that digital watchtower, our detective on the case, is a system called a SIEM. It's pronounced SIEM, and it stands for Security Information and Event Management. A SIEM is basically the central nervous system for a security team. It's not just looking at one device, it's looking at everything. It pulls in all the security data from firewalls, servers, laptops, literally every corner of the network to give you one big, clear picture of what's happening in real time. So, how does this thing actually work? Well, first, it aggregates. It gathers all the logs and event data from everywhere into one central spot, kind of like a security control room with 1,000 camera feeds. Then, step 2, it correlates that data. And this is the magic, right? This is the real detective work. It connects the dots between events that might seem totally unrelated. A weird login over here, a strange file access over there. By themselves, they're nothing. But together, they could be the clear pattern of an attack. And finally, step 3, alerting. When it spots one of those suspicious patterns, it sounds the alarm and tells the security team exactly where to look. And this isn't just some vague something feels off system. No way. A SIEM works on incredibly specific rules. I mean, look at this quote. It's a real-world example. It's a rule that says, if a firewall or a router suddenly starts dropping 40 or more connection attempts from the same single address, all within 1 minute, well, that's not normal. The SIEM flags it instantly as a probable attack, forcing someone to go check it out. This brings us to our final section. Let's wrap this all up. Becoming a harder target. So, what's the big takeaway here? I think it's that our networks are always a target, and attackers love to exploit the very trust our digital systems are built on.
We've seen how they can use these stealthy attacks like man in the middle and DNS poisoning. And it just goes to show you that security isn't just about building bigger walls. True security is about constant monitoring. It's about listening to what's happening inside those walls. And that's exactly why tools like a SIEM are so critical. They're the watchtower that gives us the vision to actually see an attack as it's happening.
And that's really the thought I want to leave you with. Every device, every server, every single connection on your network is constantly talking. It's generating data, telling a story about everything that's going on, both the good and the bad. The only question is, are you actually listening to it?